Okay, so how do I test out these colors before I actually plug them in to the variables or in our design system? So, I mentioned just a second ago that I tend to use a particular system. So this is another tool I use. Now, there are many accessibility tools out there. Yes, I understand that. And again, but this is what I use. And you may find that I use certain tools because of its simplicity. Now, for me, this is literally the best tool ever because it's so simple. It doesn't do too much. It doesn't, it doesn't sing and dance. It just does what it does, right? So before I plug a color in, I would take the base color and I'll plug that in as the foreground. As you can see, automatically updates. And then I'll take the lightest color and I'll plug that in on the background. So now if I get a tick, I'll use it. And if I get a suggestion, which is what it does, this is a great system, this Learn UI design system, it gives me a suggestion. So now I just tend to use my eyes in this regard. So I look at it really clearly and I'm like, okay, this is my original green that I plugged in, but it's saying that it's not going to really pass AA standards. So if it doesn't pass AA standards, which is what I aim to achieve for the most, AAA I think is a bit more harder to achieve because you literally now work with literal darks and lights. There's rarely any space, in my opinion, for like the mids and the nuances and, the things that your eyes can actually see. So I literally just, keep it at AA. You can use this as, again, to suggest colors of itself. So you know how, for example, I am using an element of a green, so to speak. If I didn't have a light, I can just plug in the 500, for example, and say, okay, give me suggestions on how I can use this within itself, and it'll give me a combination. So it would say, for large, bold, and text, you can use this combo. So when you're working with really large type, you can use this green on top of this green. When you're working with small text, you can use this green, white, for example, on top of this green. And that's how I kind of use and get my color combinations to be accessible. Now, remember these things, guys. Remember this as you move forward in your career. These things are machines and not all of them have eyes. So do use your eyes, okay? Because sometimes it does get it wrong. It does. And sometimes you're thinking, but I can see what this thing is saying that I can't see, but I can actually see it. Sometimes you just have to use optical sense and just use your eyes for it. But because I'm testing contrast against different colors, I just tend to use that as the color against the color. So it's telling me to use this color instead. So then what I do is I copy that. When you click on it, it tends to copy itself. And I'll plug that back into the system. And if I get 2 ticks, it makes it into the squad. So then I'll take this color, go back to Figma, and then create a new color. I don't know why I keep clicking on this mode. It's so annoying. Okay, color. Let me move this to the center of the screen. Okay, so we're going to call this success dash 500. I'm going to drop that X value in there, and that's 500. Done. Then we're going to grab the 100 version, shift enter, and that's 100. Boom. And that's success done. So sorry. So that's success done, right? So success is handled. There you go. Now we're going to work on info, we're going to work on error, and we're going to work on warning. And in the same way, so give me a second and I'll get working on that right now. So we're going to get 500, plug it in. Okay, so none of the colors work. So it's suggesting I should use this. And I always tend to go with the one with the small text because I feel like it's the most flexible. Because if you use the one in large text, when you now make that text smaller, theoretically, it's not going to work. So if it works on small, 9.99999 times out of 10, it's going to work on large as well. Or it just looks really ugly, one of the two. But you know what? I'm happy with that combination. I might bring it into Figma and slightly slightly saturate that. Do you know what? Let me do that right now because I feel there's a bit of a dull blue. But I don't want to do it too much to clash with the King's blue. So we've got to keep that in mind as well. So then I just tend to, just play around with it a bit more. So info 500. Let's just move up down here. Okay. Now I tend to use the HSL setting. I tend to interchange between HSL and HSB. It just depends on what I'm trying to go for. So with as you can see, the spectrum changes ever so slightly. It just kind of like tilts a bit more. Um, HSB controls brightness, HSL controls lightness. Sometimes they behave the same, sometimes they don't. So for when I wanna deal with saturation, for example, I'll use HSB because right now I'm at full saturation. So I'll go to HSB, and then I can tweak the saturation ever so slightly to make that a bit more lively. Then I've got a bit more brightness to play with. I'm kind of happy with where that's going as well. So I'm gonna take that. And these are just personal preferences, guys. If you actually have guidelines, digital guidelines, and you're plugging this into a system, just follow those guidelines, make your life easy. If you're creating a digital platform like we are, and you're going to be literally the creator of these guidelines, then again, you have a bit of creative freedom to play with what has been set and what could be set, if that makes sense. Don't be afraid to play a bit more. I'm going to take that. And I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to plug it in and see what you're saying. Okay. So that works on big and it's still suggesting this on small. I'm now going to test it out just to see that what I want actually works. So we got a little frame toast here. And okay, let me explain what I'm doing here. So sometimes, like I just mentioned, the system suggests colors that you might not agree with. Sometimes you got to use your eyes. Sometimes you just go with what the data says. In this case, I want to use this blue with this blue, but the system is saying when it's on smaller text, this blue is not going to fly. We should use this blue. And if you use this blue, 9 times out of 10, you can also use this blue on larger settings as well. Does that make sense? So I'm going to test it out to see if this is an optical solution. I could just use my eyes and set it automatically, or go with what the machine says. Chances are, if you can see it with your eyes and not your designer eyes, but your actual like consumer eyes, if you can see it very clearly and the contrast is sufficient, it passes for me. Okay. Cool. So that'll be blue. And then we're going to get the 100 version. Okay. So now we zoom up to 100%. And yeah, do you know what? Let's compare. So let's zoom just there. So let me go to 200%. Okay. So we can see that the contrast is there, but it's not as sharp as it could be. So let's test what it actually says. And sometimes, from time to time, you might want to do this. Sometimes it just works. So let's go, switch out that blue. And we can see, obviously, you can see immediately there's a drastic difference. So this is obviously normal text setting. When it's large, both of them you can see pretty well, but this one has a bit more punch. And on the purpose of, achieving 100% accessibility, or at least close to it, we should go with the one with the most clarity. So we're going to go with this blue. So this will be our 500. Boom. Okay, let me get back to setting the rest of this thing up. Then we'll take our 100 and then we'll plug it in. Boom. Okay, now let's do our warning. Let's just straighten out a bit more. So warning, it's already 100. Let's look at 100. It's interesting because I feel like this is actually quite similar to our mocha. But let's see real quick. Let's see. Yeah, they might be close to our mocha, you know? It's very close to the mocha, as you can see. Look, see that? Yeah, see that? It's very close to our mocha. So I'm gonna have to tweak this ever so slightly. I might make it ever just a bit darker, perhaps. No, it's still mercury, man. It's now it's brown. Okay, I'm going to have to run another simulator. That's cool. Okay. Unlock it. Let's run another simulator. Let's see. Okay, this could work. That's a bit more orange, but that can work. Could that be close to sunshine though? And these are the things sometimes that come up. You know, are these colors too close to yellow color? Could it be confused? Yeah, it can, I think. Typically, I'll just darken it ever so slightly then. There we go. So there's a bit more of a difference between sunshine and warning. Great. Let's get back. Let's get our sunshine. Oh, that's 500 now, isn't it? So change that to 500. 100. So let me take the 500. Just double check that we tested it. I mean, generally speaking, as you see, either tends to get it right, but sometimes it doesn't get it right. And it's just down to us to ensure that we can actually get it right most of the time. Then to get the 100. Okay, so it's suggesting that this color actually does not work. And even, do you know what? Even just looking at it here, you can see, if you can imagine this color in a font on top of this color, you can see that you might struggle to read that even when it's huge. So let's just give in, and we're gonna take this suggestion that it gives us. Plug it in, it works both. That's fine. As long as it's not as close to the mocha, I think it can work. And I don't think this is close to mocha at all. Yeah, the mocha is a little bit lighter. If anything, I might be a bit naughty and just lighten mocha ever so slightly just to give it that bit of distinction. But do you know what? Let me just do that now. I'm just lighten it by 2%. Yeah. Cool. So, they're both browns, but this one, I might even make it a little bit darker if I'm honest. Oh no, what have I done? Okay. Make it a little bit darker. Let's bring it down to 60%. Cool. Now we can see there's definitely a distinct difference, right? Yeah, definitely a distinct difference. Cool. All right. Let's create 100 as well. Cool. We know these two combinations work. Let me just double check it because I think I've just tweaked that color, isn't it? But it should be fine. Yep, it's fine. The system says okay. We're gonna roll with it. Okay. So now we've got success, warning, we've got info. Now we need to do error. Quickly label that up. Cool. Okay. Just notice the numbers are a bit off. All right, let me just make sure. Go some light to dark, light to dark, light to dark, 100, 500. All right, cool. All right, let's get the error sorted. Now, I hope these combinations will actually work. From the looks of it, I don't think it would. But let's see. I could be completely wrong. I don't think it will. I think it's going to suggest probably a darker red. Okay, it passed. Perfect. Perfect. Cool. Let's run it. So take that, go back into Figma, paste that down, and then take my 100 version as well, back into Figma. Oh no, I said Figma, not Illustrator. And then boom. Now, do I want to slightly test it? I kind of do. Okay, so I'm going to show you now how these are instantly applied. So let me just move my head out the way. So how we kind of tend to start using these variables, and this is just on this very, very, very basic level, we're going to be using more of the tokens rather than the primitives, but I'm just want to show you how to implement them as we, in your actual work. So if we go to the fill section, here we have the styles button, and this is the styles button. So you click on the styles button, and with the styles button, which is move this out of the way, you can view all the color libraries that you just created, or you can create your own style by literally pressing on this button, right? Let me move that out of the way again by, creating your own button. So you can use that to create a variable from the page here, or you can use that to create a style. Now there are places and use cases for when to use a style or when to use a variable. Styles are for more, I would say, absolute things. Like if there needs to be a particular color, you can't afford to change it. Make it a style. If it's an ever-changing thing, or if it is prone to change, make it a variable. That's my rule of thumb. Yeah, that's my rule of thumb. Really, nothing really much to that. There's no other complex explanation I can give you for that. But yeah, you can see all of the colors that we just created. So all we need to do now to implement it is literally click on that color. And now you can see that's grabbing the color from our current system. Then we can take this label here and again do the same thing. Grab our color. Now I can see my color combinations at work. What I actually wanted to do, I actually wanted to test what the errors were saying. So really quickly, I can take the darkest color, go to error, the lightest color, go to error, and yeah, I think that works. If anything, I can say I might even make this a little bit darker, just so it punches out ever so slightly. Black. Sorry, this is the sensitive mouse that I have. Everyone's got these the magic mouse. You touch it ever so slightly, it just goes a bit weird. Okay, 69%, and I think that works. 69%. And as you can see, even though we've implemented the style from our actual panel, when we go into our backend, i.e. our system, we can now start tweaking colors. And this is where it gets really useful. And you can actually see how this becomes a great tool for the rest of our system, because we make one color change here and it goes everywhere. So you can see I'm moving my cursor around and you can see that change happen. That's really cool stuff. I really nerd out for things like that. I think it's really useful. And once I just add a little bit of saturation of that red, just a little bit, it's a little bit red for me. It's a little bit orange. Let me go into HSO. And just, yeah. Let me just affect that hue ever so slightly. Make it a bit more on the red side. There we go. Perfect. Cool. Now that stands out. So now we've set up our colors. We set up our color primitives. Yeah? Now we're going to apply that to our actual component.